Hello everybody and welcome back to another live stream. I'm Barry Darnall and this is my channel, Barry Darnall Art. Hey, I appreciate you tuning in if you tuned in already, and if you tune in a little bit, you're still welcome. For those of you who are returning, thank you for coming back. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, thank you as well for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. So it's been a really busy week. I've been doing a lot of the drawings for Inktober this week. That's been pretty much my primary focus all week. So we've been kind of working with that. Hang with me for just a second here. I need to get something out. I know, live stream's fun, huh? All right. So anyways, the first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to take a moment and let me just show you a few of the drawings that I've done over the past week, or that I've put out over the past week. Show you what I've done. One of them, if you tuned in last week, you already saw, and that's going to be the first one I start with. So let me pull up the drawing camera here. There we go. All right. So this first one was from day one of the competition, and the challenge on that one was to draw crystals. So this was what I chose. It's some raw crystals that are still in the rock they come in. That was the one that I kind of did the preview of last week. We got that one. The next day's challenge was to draw a suit. So the suit that I chose to draw was a zoot suit from the 1940s, 1950s era. And the next item that we had was vessel. So for a vessel, I decided that I was going to draw a ship. I think that's probably a classic vessel topic. I was really happy with how this one came out. I really like what happened with the reflections in the water and the clouds. Wasn't so much happy with what I did in the sky, but I've had a few people that have told me they really liked it. So if it works, it works. The next one we had was to draw a knot. And let me get my drawing here. So for the knot, I decided to do a drawing of a knot in the form of a heart. This was a simple drawing. It was a little bit time consuming, but I really do like the way it came out. I think it came out nice and clean. It's got a nice look to it, I think. After that, the next challenge was to draw a raven. So that one was pretty interesting. It was fun. Not really a lot of detail in the raven in the photograph I had to work from, so I kind of left some highlights and things in there. But I like the way it came out. The next prompt was for a spirit. And so for that one, I decided to go with the ghostly spirit. I was really pleased with the way this one came out. I would have liked to have been able to spend more time on this drawing, and I may go back to this and try and do something more complete. There's a couple of these that I would like to maybe redraw and try and do a more complete drawing of these. I like the way this was turning out. I may just pick up on this one at some point and take it even further, but I liked it. And the one that was released today was for fan, and I like the concept. I think it needs to go a little bit further to really make it a decent drawing. But I went with a Japanese hand fan, and the particular image I had the shadow of the fan that was being cast on the woman's face, and the shadow of the shadow of the fan actually the contour drew fell on the contours of her face, and I thought they did a great job of actually creating the image of her face. So I was really, really pleased with how this one came out. So that's what I've done so far this week. Now, my plans were to try and stay ahead of things. And, as with most things that happened, I didn't stay ahead of things. So tonight, I'm going to be working on my drawing, which is going to be the drawing that will get posted tomorrow. So I thought I would do that drawing live tonight. I'm going to do this drawing from start to finish, so it might be a little bit longer show than what I normally do. So if you're tuned in, bear with me, and I hope you enjoy what I do. If you got questions or comments, feel free to drop a line in the chat. If I catch it, I will most certainly acknowledge you and answer any questions or comments you might have. While I'm at it, if you are subscribed to my channel already, thank you so much. I appreciate it very, very much. I've actually gained a few subscribers. I'm almost at 50 subscribers. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you started off at 0, 50 is a pretty big marker to start with. So if you're watching this, please subscribe. Please like the channel. If you hit the notification bell, next time I post a video or next time I'm doing a live stream, you should get a notification. So without any further delay, let me bring up the drawing here. There we go. So the drawing topic this week, or for today, or for tomorrow, I guess, is watch. I found this great little image of a cat with a butterfly on the tip of its nose, and it's watching the butterfly very, very intently. And I thought, oh, that's a pretty good topic, a pretty good image to work with. So that is what we're going to start with, and we're going to get right into it now. So let's get this going. And like I said, if you have any questions or comments, pop them into the chat box, and we'll do the best we can to answer. I'm going to start off here by just putting in simply. I had somebody this week that messaged me. We were chatting a little bit. She is actually, I wanted to look at her channel. She does painting and drawing. She's also doing some photography. I was actually very impressed with her artwork. She's a very, very good artist. She does a lot of her work with stippling. And one of the things that she brought up and kind of questioned was the use of stippling with hatching or cross hatching. I know there are some people who will say, oh, you don't mix the two, and you got other people who say that it's fine to mix the two. I'm one of those people that I say it's fine to mix the two techniques. There are textures and patterns that you can get with cross hatching and hatching that you just simply can't get with stippling. And likewise, there are patterns and textures that you can't get with cross hatching. The stippling works beautifully on them. For those of you who've been tuned in while I'm working on the car, the drawing of the old Lincoln, I'm using a combination of both cross hatching and stippling on that. There are areas of that where the cross hatching is just a perfect way to describe the forms and the textures. There's other areas where the stippling is giving me the nice texture I need, but it's also giving me the control over the gradient of the tones that I need. So you can see here as I'm putting in the stippling and laying this down, I can get a really fine gradation of my values here. Okay, so I can come in here and I can darken up this little patch on the cat's face, and I can get that. I can work on that and bring it down to whatever level of darkness I want to bring it down to, just by going in and working over and over that area several times. Now I'm going to do something in this one that I don't think I've really done. I'm actually going to do some stippling, but I'm going to come in and put some actual line work into where the stippling is at, because I think there are some areas where the stippling will give me the gradations that I need. But I think the fur can probably benefit from having some of the line work, some hatching and some more solid lines put into it to just help describe it a little bit better. Okay, so I'm being told my audio may be coming in and going out. If that's the case, oh, you know what? Hang on. I think I see the problem. Hold on. Sorry about this, folks. Sometimes things get knocked loose and you don't expect it. That's what happened here. All right. Get this plugged in. Okay, so if you're listening, I apologize for that. My audio might have been a little bit off there. The microphone got disconnected, but I think I got it fixed now. All right, so we've got some of our tones in out there. So now what I want to do is I want to come in and start getting this cat's nose put in. I'm going to start off with kind of the lighter areas of the nose. Not sure why, but I'm not sure what's going on here. Okay, hopefully you can hear me now. I'm going to bring it up a little bit more. Okay, so let me know if that gets any better. All right, so I'm gonna. This is going to be a challenging live stream tonight, apparently. Everything wants to fight with me, but I am going to fight back. So we're going to power through this, and hopefully some of these problems I can get resolved as we're going along. And those that I can't resolve, we're just going to have to contend with. Okay, so now as I get into this cat's nose here, we're going to start putting in some small lines to show where there is fur. And I want to be careful with this because it's real easy to get carried away with this. You want to get in a layer of lines. And then just like with doing the stippling or the cross hatching, you want to get it in, and then you want to build up your darker values with it by going in and putting in subsequently more and more layers on top of it. Like I've said several times before in my videos and my live streams, you can always add to it and make it darker, but if you try and take it lighter, that's when you can run into a problem, because once you've gone dark with it, it's hard to come back and lighten it up. Okay, so we'll do that. Now I'm going to come in as a little bit lighter fur in between there, so we'll throw that in there so we don't have such a stark difference. And now we're going to come in here above this little guy's eye and start to get some of that put into place. There we go. And with fur, you have to remember that fur is going in a direction. So if you look at a dog or a cat or any animal that has fur or a coat, you'll see that the hair goes in a direction, and it generally forms some patterns. And those patterns and that direction are important, because that's part of what helps to create the impression, for example, that it is a cat, for starters, but then also that it is, let's say, in this case, a long hair cat. Okay, if you're putting your lines in, going directions that don't make sense to what people expect to see for a long hair cat, or just for a cat, it starts to look off, and people will look at it and they won't maybe necessarily know what's off about it, but they will pick up that something about it is just not quite what it should be. There we go. And now we can come in here. Okay. We're going to come in here into the cat's eye. And there. Come back around his eye and get the lid part of his eye in there. Now I will come back in a little bit, and I will go back over a lot of this that I'm putting in with the medium gray. I'm going to go back over it with the very, very dark gray. I just want to get it in here right now so I can have something to work with. go ahead and get his iris put in here. He's got a little bit of a reflected light happening there. And now we'll come in and we'll start putting in some of the lighter gray in his eye. Now he's got some texture in here, so I'm going to try and make sure that I am capturing some of that texture. And then he's got a bit of a shadow under the lid of his eye. I want to make sure that I get that in there. That'll give the eye some depth and shape that it needs. Right now I am going to grab my darker gray here. And we're going to start working some of my darker grays into this. And the technique I'm kind of using is a technique that's called scumbling. Some people call it scribbling, but I've always been told that the correct term is scumbling. And what I'm doing, I'm not really laying down necessarily straight lines or hatching or stippling. I'm putting in just kind of a loose pattern of kind of squiggly little lines. And the nice thing about those is they break up the pattern. They break up solid, what would otherwise appear to be solid lines, get broken up this way. And you can create a look that is just a little bit looser, rather than having the solid lines on there. This will let you create a little bit of texture and make it look a little bit less like a blocked in area. I guess I'm probably not really explaining that the best way possible, but hopefully as you're looking at the drawing you can see that this area around the eye doesn't have a solid blocked in look to it. And that's important because it really isn't a solid dark area. It's got some different shapes and stuff to it. All right, now we're gonna start working our way up here. Now I'm gonna be a little bit lighter with the touch in this center area here because this is where the cat's got some lighter fur that's kind of running in a stripe up the front of his face, and I don't want to get in there and block that all out. I also want to stay a little bit off of his eye because he's got a little bit of a highlight on his fur right above the eye, which is kind of nice because it does help to shape the eye a little bit. There we go. This is going to be a little bit darker in here. So fur is can be a challenging thing to draw. A lot of times people just get into drawing. I mean, they just want to draw lines to represent the fur, and it ends up looking artificial. And like I said, it just doesn't have a natural look and feel to it. And I've always admired the artists who can get in there and who can draw realistic looking fur. I mean, I've seen a few artists. They're just, I'm really pretty amazed at what they do with drawing fur. And I think, like with anything, it's one of those things that the more you practice it, the better you're going to get at it. And it does take practice. Now I want to come in here on cat's nose, and I want to darken some of this a little bit more to build up a little bit more separation in here and define his nose. I know they say some people are cat people and some people are dog people. I'm a little bit of both. My wife and I have a couple of cats, and we have, of course, our dog, who you've tuned in before. You've probably heard him barking like a madman at nothing. That seems to be his specialty. And then we've got two cats. They're both cats that, one cat we got as a kitten from shelter, and then the other cat we got from a friend who just wasn't able to keep him any longer. Her living arrangement plus other pets she had, she just couldn't keep him and take care of him anymore. So we adopted him and brought him into our home, and he's been a pretty good cat. He's probably one of the most mellow cats I've ever seen. I know people, you always hear how cats can't stand to have their stomach touched or their belly touched. And this cat is like the exact opposite of that. This cat loves to get his stomach rubbed and scratched. And he'll come up to you and he'll just plop down in front of you and roll over to try and get you to scratch his stomach and pet him. And then our other cat, she is basically insane. And you definitely do not go after her belly, because she will latch onto you and put up a fight. So she's a good cat. She's definitely a cat. That's about the best way to put it. She's pretty much all cat. All right, so we're going to get in here to start working on this guy's chin. And I'm just coming in with the light gray again to get started putting some fur in here, because his chin actually kind of goes here, and because he's a long-haired cat, it's kind of a weird effect that you get here. All right. And now I'll come back in with my medium gray, and we'll start to add some darker shadows and build some shape in here. And what I really want to do is make sure that I capture right here, which is really where the shape of his chin is at. I think if I don't capture that just right, his chin is going to disappear. I don't want that to happen. I want him to have a chin. Darken this up a little bit in here. There we go. And now we'll come back in with our lighter gray ink. And now I'm going to try and define some of this area here. He's got just a little bit of a shadowed area here that kind of shapes his muzzle. So we'll make sure we capture that. That should get that started. And then he's got some lighter fur coming down here, but I want to be careful with that. I don't want to mistakenly go too dark in here and cover up his chin and or cause it to disappear in the drawing. So this is where he becomes a little bit challenging to draw, because now the face on his fur, or the fur on his face, is not real long, but as we get down here, his fur starts to definitely get longer, and so we have to figure out how we're going to draw this to kind of describe that, to explain that form and that shape. So I'm going to start off by just kind of drawing some of the major areas here and getting the direction of his fur laid in a little bit. And then once I've got that, I'll try and come back in and we'll darken areas that need to be darkened to try and get the shape of the fur, the direction of the fur a little bit better defined. There we go. All right. And now we're going to come back up in here, and we're going to do kind of the same thing up in here. He's got some longer fur. Now this fur over here is going to be lighter. This is actually kind of really light fur over here. So really what I'm trying to get built up over here is the tones and the values. And you can see this is where I'm talking about. I'm going to start to bring some of my lines up into the edge of this stippling, because the fur on his face is really short, especially over here, and I didn't want to go in and try and throw a bunch of lines in there to describe that. I really thought the stippling would describe that better. But now as we're getting down into the lower part of his face, his fur is definitely longer, so using lines and is going to do a better job of describing his fur down here. So that's what we're going to try and accomplish. Now he's got lighter fur in here, but it's in a deeper shadow. So it's kind of where his fur up here is laying over the lower part of the fur on his neck. So it's still light fur, but it's in shadow. So I want to get that started in here. Now this we can come in and we can start to tie that into the darker fur here. And now I'll come back into his darker fur. Now we're going to take my darker gray pen here, the medium gray, and I'm going to start to draw in some of these deeper shadow areas in his dark fur. While I'm doing this, I also want to make sure there's some areas where there's some lighter hair that is showing between the patches of darker fur. And I want to try and protect those, because those help to describe, again, the shape of his fur and the texture of his fur. go. All right. Now we'll come down here and pull some of this out. And again, this is where I want to be really careful because I don't want to lose the shape of his chin here. I want to be really careful not to mistakenly lose that by going too dark down in here, but it definitely needs to come darker down here because it is darker fur. And if anybody's watching who is one of those artists that draws fur really well, if you want to reach out and tell me what I can do differently to be better at drawing fur, please don't hesitate to call and school me, because I've not been a big drawer of fur in my time, so this is, I'm kind of learning as I go on some of this, quite frankly, which is, I mean, it's part of the fun and challenge of doing artwork. It's definitely part of the challenge of doing artwork on a live stream, I'm finding. Right now, I'll come down here with the lighter gray to pull some of this down a little bit. And then I want to come back up in here with that lighter gray and work some of this a little bit darker. I don't want it so dark that it doesn't separate from the darker fur, but I also don't want it so light that it stands out too starkly. Now I'm going to start to work on defining his mouth a little bit more here. And again, this is where I'm going to work my lines up into my stippling. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to kind of get away from the cat fur for a little bit here. I'm going to take a break from it, and I'm going to go up and I'm going to start working on our butterfly. Okay. So the butterfly, we need to get some dark outlines on him in a few places so he stands out a little bit from our cat. So he's got a few places where he's got some really, really dark sections on his wing. And I want to get those in because right away that will separate him from our cat. And then we'll want to get some of these patterns in here on the edge of this wing. Now, there are lines that run down here, but I'm not going down into those lines with this darker gray. I'm going to go into those with the lighter gray and build those up using the lighter gray. Just because I'm concerned if I go in with this medium gray, I'll kind of blow those areas out really quickly, and I don't want to risk that. So now we'll start here on the back edge of this first part of the wing. The butterflies have got a couple of parts to their wings, and on the front they've got a larger wing, on the back they've got a smaller wing. All right. So like I was saying when I started this, I will go longer tonight than what I normally do. I want to finish this drawing, especially because it's my drawing that I've got to get posted for tomorrow. So once I get done drawing this, I'll have to edit this down and get it ready to get posted tomorrow. And you can see here where I'm getting into some areas up here where there's like a pattern of the wing. And then in some of these areas, it's darker as it comes one direction. And then up here at the front of the wing, it's kind of darker up towards the top. And then it lightens up a little bit as it comes down. But then it gets darker again as you get down into the wing. And you can see as I just lightly add more and more layers of this lighter ink, I can get a fairly dark tone with the lighter ink. It is possible, and you have a little bit more control with it. Now we're gonna get this part of the wing going here. Now I will come in on some of this with the darker gray here in a bit, because there are a few areas that I need to get slightly darker than what I can get with the light gray. But I want to get as much out of the light gray as I can get before I start coming in with the darker gray. And I want to get a little bit more over here. This is kind of a... There we go. So now I'll come in, like I said, I'm going to bring in my medium gray. And there's just some shadow area in here that I just can't quite get the depth out of it that I want to get with the light gray. So now I'll come in with that darker gray, that medium gray, and we can get that pulled in. Okay, now we're going to go on to the back part of this wing. Okay, and again, I'm going to start off with my medium gray. We're just going to come in here with medium gray. There we go. Now I don't want to go any further on this wing with that, because that's going to be a darker light tone in there, and I don't want to go too heavy with the medium. I want to build that up like I did on the other wing. Okay. Now I'm also going to probably come in here with my dark gray, and I'm going to hit a few of these areas with that dark gray because I think they need it just to make it pop a little bit more. There we go. Now we're going to come in with my light gray. Now right up here on the front part of this rear wing, it's fairly light. There's a little bit of some shadow in here, and I'll try and get some of that in there, but I don't want to go too very dark with that down in there because I want it to stay separated from this front wing. So we'll let it stay fairly light up there. And then we'll come back here on the back part of this wing and we'll build up our values back here. And I'm putting in a little bit of a line or some shading in there. And I'm going to come over that real lightly with the light pen. As I go over it, each time I make a pass over it, it's going to get just slightly darker because I'm adding another layer of ink to it. Go. Now we're going to go back up to the front wing on the other side, and we're going to try and get this one in. Again, I'm going to start with my medium gray pen up here because I want to get this darker area in right away. I want it to immediately stand out. Go. All right. So like I was saying, this last week has been a fairly busy week for us. Last weekend was my birthday, and we celebrated my birthday. I'm not a big person for celebrating my birthday. My wife is definitely a birthday celebration person, so she pretty much forces me to celebrate my birthday. But what we did this year, I will admit I enjoyed. We went and took a train ride on a vintage train out of Monticello, Illinois. And we went with my parents, and it was really fun. It was a train ride as well as a dinner. So we were in a dining car for the trip, and the train took off, and we spent a couple of hours just riding the train and enjoying a dinner and just spending time with family, hanging out. It was, like I said, it was enjoyable. I'd never done it before. I've ridden on trains before, but I'd never ridden on a vintage train like that in a dining car. So it was an enjoyable experience, and I think everybody had a good time. I know I did. And then this week we are getting ready to celebrate my daughter-in-law graduating from college. So we're going to be going and spending time with her and celebrating that moment in her life. It's a big accomplishment, and she's worked hard for it, and we're really excited for her. So we're going to go and spend time with her and the family this weekend to celebrate that. So I'm going to try and get several drawings done in the next 2 days, so next week I can just post drawings right away on a schedule. We'll see how that works out for me. Like I said, that was my plan this week, and you see where I'm at. I'm working on tomorrow's drawing tonight, so I've got a game plan for getting a little bit ahead here shortly, and I'm going to hopefully be able to accomplish that next week. But for those of you who have been tuning in to watch me work on the car, I will be getting back to the car next week. And hopefully, if I don't finish it next week, I will finish it the week after. and then we will move on to something else. Now, I probably will do another Inktober live drawing towards the end of the month, and I will keep you posted on that. If you're subscribed to my channel, you should get notifications, and if you're not, just please keep an eye on the channel. So, and since we're talking about it, why not just go ahead and subscribe anyways? Then you can get the notifications, and you can help me out a little bit too. I'm trying to build the channel, and those subscriptions are a big deal towards that. So now I'm going to go in with the black, or the really, really dark right now. I'm going to be really careful with this because I don't want to get carried away with this. I just really want it to let parts of the wing stand out a little bit, to give it a little bit of separation from some other parts of the drawing. But I still want to keep the butterfly's wings, you know, looking delicate. I don't want to go too dark. There's just a few little spots here where I think the black will help it to pop out a little bit and separate. And that's what I'm trying to emphasize, is that separation in a few places. Sorry if I got a little quiet there for a second. I was really trying to concentrate on what I was doing there. I was trying to make sense of what was going on in my reference photo. You know, one of the questions that I've gotten in conversations I've had with people are, you know, my use of reference photos. I guess I'm what you would call a representational artist. I want to draw things that accurately represent what I'm drawing. I'm not opposed to taking a little bit of creative license here and there and adding or eliminating things from a subject to help emphasize it better. But ultimately, when I get done, I want it to resemble what it is that I'm drawing. That's the type of art that I enjoy doing. And so I do use reference photos. If I'm not drawing from something live, then I will have a reference photo. Some of the reference photos that I use are ones that I've taken. Others are ones that I get primarily from a website called unsplash.com. I'm not sponsored by them, but it is a wonderful, wonderful site if you're looking for reference photos to work from. They've got just thousands and thousands and thousands of photographs there. And the photographers are generous enough to share their work, and they are looking for artists to use their work in their drawings and paintings. Okay, so now let's go in here and get his eye a little bit darker here. There we go. Fur pulled out over here a little bit more, so I've got quite a little void of fur over here that needs to get filled in. Now, if you'll see on my drawing, I'm only going to about right here. I'm not drawing the rest of the cat. One thing with doing these Inktober drawings, I know there are some people who do a lot of their drawings quite a bit in advance. I have not done that. I probably should consider it for future years, so I wouldn't be playing this catch-up game that I'm playing now. But I'm drawing these pretty close to within a day or two of when the date comes for that particular prompt. And so, like I said, with everything going on this week, things just kind of caught up. I fell behind in my game plan. And so tonight I'm doing this live drawing just because I need to get this drawing done for tomorrow so I can release it tomorrow on time. And I thought, well, let me just do this as a live stream and I will kind of kill two birds with one stone, my live stream as well as my drawing that I need to get done for release. So that's what we're doing. But one thing I've definitely had to make sure I do this year is I need to make sure I control the scale of these drawings. Last year, one mistake I made, last year was the first year I did Inktober, and definitely one of the mistakes I made last year was I took on some drawings that were just a little bit too large in scale for something like this. And so consequently, I did not complete all of the drawings last year. I completed several of them, and I was happy with what I did. But this year, I want to complete all the drawings, and in order to do that, I've got to remind myself that I can't undertake a large drawing and expect to get it done on time, especially since I'm doing them pretty much within a day or two of their release. So for those of you who are just tuning in, this is one of my drawings that I'm doing for the Inktober event. And Inktober, if you're not familiar with it, is a annual event every October where pen and ink artists or artists that dabble in pen and ink from time to time, they basically spend the month of October doing pen and ink drawings off of a list. And here, let me put that list up here real quick just so you can see it. Probably should have done this earlier anyways. So this is the list of the prompts. And you'll see that the one we're on now is number 8, which is watch. And of course, I chose it because I've got this great cat who is watching this butterfly on the tip of his nose. But the other prompts are, up there. Every day has a different prompt. And it's up to the artist to figure out what they want to draw to represent that prompt. So for me, what I'm doing for watch is drawing this cat who's watching the butterfly. And let me pull my reference back up here. There we go. All right, so I need to get some of this a lot darker in here. All right. And again, like I said earlier, you'll notice I'm not, for the fur, I'm not getting in there and just scratching back and forth. I'm trying to draw this fur in the pattern and the direction that the fur is actually running. That's really important in order to get a realistic look to your fur. I'm definitely not filling this in with a solid amount of ink because fur has highlights and lowlights and shadows in it. And if he just came in and blocked it all in one solid color, it would not look the way that I really think you probably want it to look. Now I need to get in here. I've got a little bit of detail I need to put into these areas because these are looking a little bit blank in here, a little bit narrow. So we'll come in here and get a little bit of his fur laid in here. There we go. And I need to get a little bit of something in here. We'll get a little bit of detail down in here just to show the direction of his fur as it heads out this way. All right. And I think we're probably going to call that the drawing. I'm going to do one last thing here. I'm going to come in and just throw in a few very light whiskers coming off of his face. And we'll get a few whiskers coming off this way. There we go. A little bit of a line there. All right, so I think we've got our drawing done. The last step that I do when I do these drawings is I come in with my eraser and I get rid of my pencil marks. Some artists leave in their pencil marks. I like to get rid of mine. And there we have it. That is going to be my Inktober Day 8 drawing. So folks, I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you hanging out with me again on a live stream. I hope you enjoyed the drawing. I hope you go out and check out my other entries for Inktober 2021. And until next week, when hopefully you tune in and we spend some more time together, take care, be safe, and keep drawing.